Hi there, welcome to another part in the series of Life in the Inpatient Psychiatric Unit. Today we're going to be talking about food and water. Now, meals became part of the focal of the day because there wasn't much else to structure your time around. Each day, patients would fill out a menu sheet of the following day, circling the items that they wanted for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The problem was that what arrived wasn't always what you ordered, and sometimes items were missing. Sometimes portions were a lot smaller than requested, and if you had any dietary restrictions, your options were very limited. The meals themselves were actually quite carbohydrate heavy. Fresh fruits and vegetables were uncommon. Most produce appeared to come from canned or frozen sources. There were bananas available on the unit, but I didn't really see anybody eating an apple or an orange. What bothered me more than the food, though, was access to drinking water. We technically had access to water, but not in the way that encouraged people to stay hydrated. The water that came from the bathroom taps was warm, so most patients didn't want to drink it, as I'm sure you can relate. So to get cold drinking water, we had to go to the nurses' stations and tap on the glass window to get someone's attention. And we had to do this every single time. If we wanted a glass of water, we had to ask. If we wanted another one, we also had to ask. And if we wanted a snack, we also had to ask. Again and again, because many times we were often rebuffed or ignored completely. There was no patient-accessible water station. There was no snack cupboard. There was no fridge that patients could freely access. And this was frustrating to me because I had been on another psychiatric unit in that same hospital where they did have a fridge to access things like sandwiches, muffins, etc. On this unit, though, that wasn't the case for whatever reason. As a result, many patients simply didn't get enough drinking water, not because we didn't want water, but because we were just so tired of having to ask for it. Any patients felt like a burden. And at the same time, I could see that the nurses were becoming frustrated too. They were constantly being interrupted to provide things that could have easily been made accessible to patients directly. The nurses were not hired to be butlers. I get that. They're healthcare professionals. Yet a significant amount of their time was spent handing out water, snacks, and basic necessities through a glass window. That system was not working well for patients, and it also was not working well for staff. And one small example was salt. The food was often under-seasoned, which is common in hospitals. So whenever somebody managed to get an extra salt packet, it was like surprisingly valuable commodity. The same thing happened when you had condiments that were brought from home, which had to be approved by psychiatrists. Technically, sharing was not encouraged, but when you're eating bland food every day, people find other ways to help each other. So something as simple as sharing soy sauce became an act of kindness. But again, this was often discouraged. Looking back, I don't think food was the biggest issue. I think access to it was. Food, water, and snacks should not feel like privileges that require repeated requests through a glass barrier. They are basic human needs. And in my opinion, making those needs more accessible would improve life for both patients and staff as a whole.